So I wanted to do analysis of ZvZ in a very strange situation. That doesn't happen too often, but it really highlights the way you can take edges and realize what edges your opponent has already taken. The ZvZ, it's a mirror matchup, obviously. So all the tools work the same way. Drones mine the same rate as drones, hatches produce the same rate of larvae, etc. So if you pay really close attention to how your opponent opened up, you could realize what edges they have. So in this game, the opponent went for a drone pull at the beginning. They pulled 10 drones here, and they have 4 drones mining in their main. So they've created the edge of initiative by deciding to attack me. By choosing where the battle is going to be fought, it will be fought in my base. So that's an edge that they can take. What are the edges that I can take? I have the edge of income. Let's go to the income tab. It's very heavily in my favor. I have 19 harvesters to 14 total in the game. This drone will probably die. And I opted to react by canceling the expansion and taking a small fight here. So I have quite a few workers. That's about 19, is it? And then here, the opponent has quite a few drones. So I'm going to try and take some bites off of their workers. And then when my pool finishes, I want to build my own spines. So you're responding to spines with spines. I can afford more spines because I have the income advantage. This was a bit of a mistake by me. I have a bunch of my drones that aren't actively participating in the fight, so the opponent got to take a small trade that was in their favor. If this drone battle went perfectly for me, I likely would have just won the game once my queens and lings were out. But because they got that good trade, here their lings are going to be able to tip the scales in their favor, and now I'm taking a bit more damage. I have 2 spines building to the opponent's 1 spine, and my lings are now out, so I'm trying to run my drones away until my spines are done. The spine is the highest DPS piece of their offensive. Drones are the lowest DPS, and then lings kind of in the middle. Anytime you're dealing with ZvZ Micro, there are going to be lots of mistakes on both sides, a lot of missed opportunities. So being successful at the matchup kind of comes with embracing the chaos and the ridiculousness of those scenarios and trying to get just slightly better. This particular attack is fairly rare, so most players don't get that many opportunities to practice against it. So when it's happening, you kind of just have to roll with it and do the best you can. And then here, things are shaping up to be quite strange. So I've lost my spine pool. I have 2 spines, the opponent canceled their spines, and we've entered a very odd reset of a game. Both players have 7 workers. This opponent has 2 workers that are on the opponent's side of the map, so here it's only 5. So for a brief window, I have an income advantage. But we've both been reduced to very small and potentially non-existent economies, and I don't even have a spawning pool. So from this moment, I kind of realize, alright, the opponent has the edge of larva. They have a pool that's done, so they can make a queen, which they can then inject the hatch. If I were to go for ling speed and a bane nest, that would be a very larva-intensive composition, and that would favor my opponent. I have 2 spines, which means the opponent's going to have a really tough time attacking me, so I figured I'll use this edge of a really well-defended base to skip the ling bane stage and take a different edge. I'll take the edge of upgrades and roaches. So I just had 1 ling that was harassing the opponent. I can see with this overlord that this base is being taken, which is nice. The opponent's taking a gas. I feel like they should have taken a queen earlier. They kind of failed to take that larva advantage. And once my pool is done, I make a queen and a roach warren. I don't want to mess around with the ling bane wars from behind in larva. I'll get ahead in gas and in upgrades, and then make a really sturdy swell of roaches. So here I make 1 queen. Queens are really nice as energy units. They gain value over time. So I make a second one, and I take an evo chamber. So a lot of times you would kind of feel like, the opponent took a base, so I need to take a base as quickly as possible. But I don't have ling speed, and if I make slow lings, Sure, I can maybe push the Ling off my base, but I'm not guaranteed to be able to hold it, especially before creep is established there. So with that extra queen, I make progress, creeping down the natural. Once this area is creeped, I can move the spines, and then I'll be able to create a really sturdy defense and then drone up 2 bases. So a mistake that the opponent is making here is they have a bunch of army units, like these 5 roaches. Imagine if all of this money was spent into drones or upgrades or something else, I would just be very far behind. But by making these roaches, I get to catch up a little bit, because I spent 100 gas into range attack and another 100 gas into lair. So I'm moving up the tech tree, I'm going to be producing a greater composition as the game goes on, whereas the opponent produce a bunch of army value right now. If you're ever making army units, you would think about, what's the purpose of this unit? Am I afraid the opponent is about to attack me and I need defense? Do I want to go for attack myself? If you just make units and defend, that's generally not the best. So I only made 2 roaches to push the Ling off my natural, and then I'm moving these spines down to sort of defend my 2 base saturation. This is a big Ling Ravager timing. If you're against Ling Ravager, making pure roach is quite good. My +1 attack is done, so my roaches are trading super well with the Lings and decently well with the Ravagers. A big problem with what the opponent went for is they were only on 2 bases of larva production when they made a bunch of Lings, so it was quite all in. I'm making roaches off of 2 base economy, more larva efficient, and then when roach speed kicks in, I get to leverage my 2 edges, which is faster roast speed and +1 ranged attack. And this was all after losing the pool early on to a spine rush. Fun, non-standard ZvZ game.